by a process provided for by law. That's part of your state constitution. That's provided for in our state constitution at this point in time. We have had provisions in place for those spending limitations since about 1985. We've had provisions in place for employment limitations in the state statute since 1985. The only problem we have with our state spending limitations that we have right now is it's based upon a formula that uses numbers concerning state personal income that is no longer produced by the Department of Commerce. So we have a flawed system. That's one of the reasons we've been trying to take and work and to fix that system there. This bill also limits local government spending to the consumer price index or to the economy of the state, plus the population growth. So it allows for growth. One of the things that you will hear from folks is that, well, you know, we've got a fast-growing area. This is not going to be appropriate for us. We've got provisions in there to allow for that growth. The bill provides that the law may only be superseded by a 2/3 vote of the entire membership of a political subdivision or school district in the event that a state of emergency is declared by the governor for that political subdivision or government. So if there is a Hurricane Hugo or something like that and the governor declares a state of emergency, we have provisions in this bill to take and allow for the suspension of this spending limitations to handle those types of situations. The legislation rolls back the base, and this is very important because one of the things that we have heard complaints about is a lot of school districts particularly took advantage of the rollback provision and raised their millage rates. This bill would take and roll back the base for the state distribution for local school districts to the fiscal year 2005-2006 to prevent local governments from arbitrarily shifting operating expenses to the state. This is where the bill gets a little bit complicated, where we talk about the three-tier system. So let me kind of go over that with you very briefly also. For fiscal year 2007-2008, a three-tiered system is established for reimbursement purposes. Tier 1 provides that the distribution to school districts be locked in under the previous $100,000 exemption under the exemption on your home to ensure that districts do not receive decreased funds than they were receiving under the current $100,000 owner-occupied exemption. This is a whole homeless provision that's placed in the bill. Tier 2 requires that the school districts continue to obtain the amount received under the $50,000 owner-occupied homestead exemption for those persons 65 or older. This is also a whole homeless provision that was placed in the bill. Tier 3 distributions consist of dollars that school districts receive from the imposition of the state sales tax and owner-occupied provisions under the Act 388, which we passed in 2006. So that gives you some sort of a feeling for what the bill does in somewhat simple statements. Why are we doing this? Why are we trying to do this? Well, you know, one of the things that we have to realize, and we have to take and step back a little bit. And I talked with the municipal association's managers about this past Friday at our regular managers forum. We've got to take and step back from what we do on a day-to-day basis. On a day-to-day basis in city government and county government and in school districts, we're sitting there, we're taking a look at, we're trying to deal with the immediate issues and the things that we're having to deal with for that local government. Well, I think that one of the things that we have to do is we have to also listen to what's going on out there in the community. And sometimes we can't see the forest for the trees, so to speak, because we're not really listening to what's happening out there in the community around us. There is a reason why we have had a proliferation in groups that are calling for spending limitations and for no tax. These groups have proliferated over the last 5-10 years, and there's a good reason for that. If you look at the groups that have been coming out of the woodwork, so to speak, we can no longer dismiss those groups. These are no longer people that you can say that are on the fringe. In the past, we've been able to take and isolate those people and say they're on the fringe. But these are your CEOs of your major corporations in the state. These are your CFOs that are coming to you. One of the things that we've got to understand about our representative democracy, if you look back through history, democracies in the world have not fared very well. And you look at why they haven't fared very well. Well, Alexander Tyler had a comment when we were going through the process of adopting our Constitution in the United States back in the 1700s. He said, you know, if you look back at the history of democracy on a world basis, you look at the Greek societies, you look at the Roman societies, the thing that has always been their downfall is that once the citizens realized that they could vote themselves favors, gifts, and awards, then they overburdened the system to the point the only way that it would self-regulate itself and bring itself back was a collapse of the system itself into an autocracy. And if you look back to the Greek societies and the Roman societies, that is exactly what happened. And he was warning us as we were going through the process of establishing our Constitution that this could happen to us in the United States. If you listen to what is taking place now, you listen to the Michelins, you listen to the Westinghouses and those folks, they're telling you right now that we are starting to get to the point that we are starting to take and erode our tax base. These are the people that drive our tax system. These are the people that drive our economy. We cannot overlook them. We cannot take them for granted. We cannot say, well, you don't know what you're talking about, because they do. This is affecting their bottom line. There's reasons why we're losing business, such as what we happened recently in Greenville County, where Michelin decided to take, and even though we got the Michelin North American headquarters in Greenville County, to relocate their research or to take and put a new research facility in Canada instead of Greenville County. There's a reason. They were very explicit about it. Because of the cost of business. Because of the cost of doing business here. We have got to take and listen to these folks. We cannot discount them anymore. Well, why would we do a spending cap versus a property tax or a millage cap? Well, the reason for that is because if you don't do a spending cap, there are so many other methods that are available for business licenses and other fees like that. It's just like squeezing a balloon. You squeeze it in one place, it's going to explode or expand in another place. In order to really get a handle on the situation, you've got to look at the overall of it. You can't just look at the property tax side of it. So the reason we looked at and put together an overall spending limitation is just for that reason. If we're going to really address the issue, we're going to really take and limit what is being done and to give some relief, then we've got to look at it on an overall basis. We've got to look at the expenditures. We've got to look at the spending. And that's what we've done with this. Many people have said, well, this is infringement on home rule. This is a way of taking and eroding away home rule. One of the things that we rely on home rule to do is to have a good check and balance on the ability to take and increase spending and increase taxes. Do we really have that in place in South Carolina? Is that really something that is workable? Does it work? Well, if you think about it, and I know that most of you have been in this same situation, we don't really have a system of check and balance and accountability from the taxpayers, because we've got a system, and you guys on Ways and Means and ladies on Ways and Means understand this probably more than most of us, where we fund a great deal of the budgets of school districts and local governments in this state. Well, you say, I say, well, that's well and good. What does that have to do with this? Well, when you're looking at accountability, it has a great deal to do with it.